Coach Jimmy Lynam from NBC Sports Philadelphia Sixers pre and post-game live. He joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda hotline in advance of game number 3 in Miami. Coach Lynam, welcome back to the show.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing really well. I'm interested to talk to you because, you know, the playoffs are all about making adjustments. And in game 1, Brett Brown made the adjustment that Spoelstra didn't really counter very well. In game 2, Spoelstra made adjustments that maybe Brown didn't counter very well. So what does Brett Brown counter with tonight in game number 3?
Well, the only thing I would say at the outset is just you can't necessarily go to who won the game to say who made the best adjustments. You know, the logic doesn't always follow like that. I would agree with you that Brett's adjustment in game 1 with the starting Ilyasova the second half, and then the way the Sixers, you know, just took over in the third quarter. I think they outscored Miami 34-18 in the third quarter, and Miami had to take one of their best players, the big guy Whiteside, out of the game because he couldn't guard Ilyasova. So I'd say yes, that adjustment was very significant. And I'm not trying to cover Brett's back here. I think in a big picture way, give Miami a lot of credit in that one of their tactics in game 2 was to pressure up. They put pressure on Simmons down the court, and in the half court, they pressured up on everybody. And I think that really was a problem for the Sixers. They never were able to get in the flow. And now what Brett should have done, and ironically, Mike, I was down the shore yesterday, so I listened to you a little bit at the top of your show when I was in the car.
I'm pretty flattered by that, Coach.
Yeah, no, I enjoy the station number 1, and you guys, you and Pete specifically number 2. But and I would actually be a little bit with you that, and I actually said at halftime to Mark Jackson when we were watching the game, I said the way this is going, I said, would you give Fultz the first shot? And Mark said, I think I would. All right, having said that, Fultz did get an opportunity in the first half, and he wasn't, real good. He was okay. Now, whether he would have made a difference in the second half, it's speculative. T.J. McConnell has been good in those situations. A big picture, when teams are pressuring up, do you need more dribble penetration? Of course you do. You're not going to get as many open threes if their focus is to get up and in you. Then you can't stand there and shoot, but yes, you can go by. So people who can go by guys should be real good in that setting. So I guess that would be my explanation.
Yeah, and it sounds like Brett today indicated that Fultz is going to get more time, a bigger role. And I guess the question for you is, should that role be paired with Ben Simmons as opposed to backing him up?
See, for me, I think that's what specifically we could talk about Fultz and Simmons, but in general, the world makes too much to me about who plays with whom. If you have 2 good players out there, they'll figure it out. I'll give you a classic example, going all the way back. It's a little bit of a history lesson, but the 2 guys happen to be top 50 of all-time players. Clyde Frazier is up in New York with the Knicks. Earl the Pearl Monroe is down in Baltimore with at the time, the Bullets. A deal is made, and Monroe goes to New York. A huge percentage of the basketball world says, are you crazy? These are 2 guys that have the ball in their hands all the time. Yeah, they also have to be 2 top 50 of all time. End result, 2 world championships over the next 3 years for the New York Knicks. So this is about who can play with who. If you have 2 good players, trust me, they can figure it out.
Yeah, and, a lot of that is those 2 guys haven't played a whole heck of a lot together. How much – when you're coaching, Coach, trust in a player, right? That goes a long way in whether you're going to use him in a certain situation. Does Brett still feeling Fultz out a little bit maybe?
Well, let's take what you said. That is the bedrock, what you said, the element of trust. Of course, you have to have trust. The coach has to have trust in a player. And trust is earned over a period of time, or it grows, or it's created over a period of time, namely by watching a guy and see how he performs. And I would say that the random sample on Fultz obviously is not as big as we would like due to the circumstance of the guy missing 68 games. So it's a little bit of guesswork if you want to know the truth. But there's nobody. I don't care. We can line up the next 100 callers. Everybody's walking to an opinion. But I got news for you. Nobody, and you can put me at the top of the list. Put Brett at the top of the list ahead of me. And put Markelle Fultz at the top of the list ahead of Brett and me. You don't know what he's going to give you. And you could say, well, I want to make an intelligent guess. Well, my response would be, I'd like to have seen him play 80 games, and I think I could make a more intelligent guess than based on these last 11, 12, 13 games where he played 13 minutes a night in what, by the way, happened to be a lot of blowout games because of the way the Sixers were playing.
Coach Jim Lynam on with us, talking Sixers and Heat. And, Coach, what adjustments do the Sixers need to make if Embiid cannot play tonight?
Yeah, and that's another topic which I guess we could get to if he doesn't play. But the adjustments, it's in a big picture way, playing against pressure. Any kind of pressure that the other team applies to you, you have to be ready to respond to it. You have to be do a little bit more moving when you don't have the ball as opposed to standing. You have to do things to create like guys to get open, whether you're setting screens or ball cutting more dribble penetration to the basket. And the Sixers don't have a lot of great penetrators, which is your point yesterday's show about Fultz and his ability to penetrate. There is no question that Fultz can go by a defender. There's no argument about that. However, that's 1A. 1B is, what does he do when he goes by? Can he get into the lane and effectively make a play either for himself or for somebody else on a consistent basis? And that would be Brett's decision. I mean, in a big game, playoff game at Miami, where they have now taken home court from you by virtue of that win the other night, are you ready to invest in the possibility that Fultz can help you in that particular circumstance? I have to think he can.
Now, that was if Joel Embiid can't play. Do you think Embiid will play? And if he does play, what does he bring to the table that he can add in this matchup with the Heat?
Yeah, your question is well stated. Number one, will he play? If you'd asked me yesterday, let's say when I was driving, listening to your show, I would have said, yes, I'd be reasonably confident. I would make a wager that he would play. As the day unfolded, the teams on that off day have to, at the end of the day, I think it's 5 o'clock, submit their roster report on the injuries. And they listed Embiid as doubtful. That surprised me. Now, it's 5 o'clock today is the next update. But doubtful to me says you better put your money back in your pocket, Coach. A little bit of a reckless bet, I'll say. So I'm afraid my guess now would be no, he doesn't play. Now, could that be posturing on their part? Which is a good tactic. So Miami has to prepare. He's not going to play, and then all of a sudden you spring him. Yeah, possible. But I'm going to guess and say maybe no, he does not play.
Yeah.
But if he were to play, Mike, I mean, come on, the guy. This will be 3 weeks since his surgery. I think to the day.
The surgery was on. Actually, Coach, the surgery was Saturday. So Game 4 on Saturday would be 3 weeks. The injury occurred on Wednesday, the 28th. So this would be 3 weeks and a day past the night of the injury.
Got it. Okay, but let's talk. I really, when I was finishing my drive and got to Philly, I was listening to one of the Philly stations, and the fellow on the Philly station I thought really made a great point. In fact, I'll say it was Mike Eskin, who I just know casually, but he kind of like got my attention. And I'll be a little bit flip and say not all talk radio people get my attention. The point that he made, he did. And he was saying that he's not trying to in any way like diminish what the Sixers have accomplished. He would love for them he thinks they have a chance to get to the finals. But if the medical people, for whatever their reasons are, have a reservation about Joel Embiid, and then he kind of like trying to make his point, Joel Embiid, who fractured a bone right by his eye and had screws put in his face right around the eye. And he was trying to like say, fellas, like this is a pretty serious matter. And if the medical guys are saying, no, we don't think it's a good idea for him to go back out there in the event like he gets hit up in that eye. Yeah, we know he has a mask, but you're talking about somebody's vision. And Eskin continued, said, this guy, he could be the best player, certainly one of the best, in the entire NBA for the next 10 years. What are you doing? If your medical people say he can't play,
and not to mention, Coach, this is the second time he has injured that same eye.
Yeah, in college,
he had the injury too, and he had to wear goggles for some. He didn't break the orbital bone, but he did something to that eye area where he had to wear goggles. So, in this instance, I think the Sixers medical team is probably handling this right. Now, the other night when he goes off and says, "I'm tired of being babied," and then
he said, "I'm bleeping tired."
Yeah, well, you know, paraphrasing here.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's frustrated, and the team probably not thrilled with that, but they're probably putting the best interest in this instance, where in the past maybe people have questioned, maybe he could play, maybe he couldn't, but they weren't all that interested in winning, so we'll hold him out. In this instance, they're interested in winning, so that's why I believe that they're holding him out with just cause.
There you go. I couldn't agree more. That's well stated. And Mike, two people can take different sides of an issue and both be right. Embiid obviously is a competitive guy, as you said, and I think he may have been posturing a little bit, trying to put some pressure on the team. He's a very bright guy. He feels fine, and therefore would like to play. It goes beyond that with the medical people, obviously. You can feel fine and be pretty sick.
Right.
We've all experienced that personally. So their position would be, Joe, we know you feel a lot better. However, that thing is not healed yet. And in terms of risk-reward, it's not worth it. It's too big a gamble for you to go out there. So if he doesn't play, that's their posture. And they're 100% right. Obviously, they'd love to win this game and win this series. But they're not going to do it at the expense of what they feel is a bad gamble on this guy's long-term health.
I want to get a little X and O's with you here because the Sixers won by 29 in game one, basically by just bombing Miami out of the joint. I mean, they were just shooting from all over the place. Now, they came out ice cold, 2 for 18. They got away from shooting the three in the third and then got back into the game by kind of bombing away in the fourth. So if you're on that sideline, if you come out cold, are you telling these guys, keep shooting, or are you trying to get back into the game the way they did the other night by saying, Ben in the post, Dario down in the post, let's try to get 2-point buckets?
Well, first of all, I think let's go back to the first game when they shot like just an incredible percentage from three-point land. They made 18 out of 28 threes. That's close to 65%. And to quote J.J. Redick, who should know a little bit about three-point shooting,
right?
He called that unsustainable in his post-game comments. I don't know if you saw them.
Yes.
All right. And by the same token, the Sixers the other night, the shoot total, I think, 7 on 36 threes.
Correct.
And he called that an anomaly. And I think both. He's a bright guy. Both unsustainable in the one case, and anomaly in the other. I think, first of all, the Sixers on the season, they average like 33s a game, and which is not unusual now. Teams shoot a lot more threes. By way of example, Houston, who is insane, D'Antoni obviously loves the three, and they shoot the most threes of anybody in the league. I mean, they're so far ahead of the pack. They averaged in a league, let's say that's averaging like a little less than 30 threes. Houston averages 42 threes a night. Now, you're asking the Sixers shot, you said 2 for 18 at the half. So my question back to you would be, well, how many threes do you want these guys to shoot? I mean, come on.
60,
if they got
70.
the same number of threes in the second half, they're at 36. That's 6 more threes than they would shoot on an average night. So,
good point.
I think the three-point shot is certainly a part of their repertoire, no question. But you have to give watch. When Bellinelli, in fact, I heard you talk about Bellinelli. When he takes some of those wild, off-balance threes, which he has an ability, maybe like nobody else, to make. Well, if teams are pressuring up on you, yeah, I can try to shoot more threes, but except for one thing, I'm not going to be open.
Right.
The idea is to get open threes, not just get threes.
Right.
There's no point in that. So it's I just out of curiosity, you asked a very, I think, fair question, and I want to. You ready?
Yeah.
Sixers were 2 for 18 at the half. You know what they were the second half? 5 for 18.
5 for 18. Well, and you figure if they make, 2 or 3 more threes, they win the game.
Okay, that's the answer. The answer is not. For the 76ers, if you're shooting 18 threes a half, trust me, you're shooting a lot of threes.
I agree with you there, but it's almost like without Joel, it appears that that's who they've
that's their identity.
That's their identity. Is we're just going to bomb away, no matter how many it takes to, until until we can't make any more. And I guess that's what happened. They stopped making them. So Brett said, "Hey, let's slow down. I'll take it," because it seemed there was a lull there in the third where they said, "You know what? We're not making them, so let's not take them."
Well, I hear what you're saying. It's again a lot of times the defense will dictate. What you get. But in terms of the way the game went, you're absolutely right. That in the third quarter, I think they shot only 6 threes, and then back in the fourth quarter, they shot 12.
Right.
So, I'll go back to the point that they want to shoot open threes. There's no question about that. But you have to have a reasonable chance of making them, meaning have a little bit of space. And the Sixers are very good. I mean, they like Dario Saric has really worked hard at getting rid of the ball a little quicker because obviously defenders are running at you when you're standing on the 3 line if they know you're a competent shooter and get rid of it quickly. That's one of the advantages the Sixers have. Bellinelli, Redick, and Saric, Covington. I put all 4 of those guys in the category. They get rid of that ball pretty quickly. They don't need a whole lot of open space.
Coach,
but if they're not getting them up in the air, it's usually because the defense is closing out quickly.
Coach, since we're talking about three-pointers, I do want to bring up Robert Covington, that name you just mentioned, because Mike and I, like you, do like to turn on the radio in the car and listen to what people are talking about, and people were killing Robert Covington after that game the other night. Of course, the 1 3 he did have came in quote-unquote garbage time late in the game. He only finished with 7 points. He was minus 12, 3 for 13 from the field. Is that criticism of Robert Covington fair or unfair?
Well, yeah, sure. Based on one game, I mean, it was, as you say, I think it was 1 for 9 from the 3 line. But
can I interject a question for you here, Coach, on that?
Go ahead.
Because I think everybody goes after Robert, and he signed that contract, so I think he gets more. But my question for you is this. When a guy's struggling like that, people say, he's obviously struggling. Why don't you get him out of the game? I said other guys were struggling. If you pull Robert, what's the message to him? In other words, if you're coaching and this guy's struggling, you say, this guy don't have it tonight, I got to get him out? Or do you say, I can't set this message that I'm pulling him out? That shows I don't have confidence in him to get through this.
Yeah, well, I think you have to take a step back and the person that's going to call and criticize, I certainly understand. You say, come on, this guy was 1 for 9. If you look at Covington's track record, I'll ask the question. Do you view Covington as hear the word, consistent three-point shooter?
No.
I'll tell you what he's shooting. And of course, no. He's an inconsistent 37% three-point shooter. 37% is very good for the NBA. My term, very good. The average three-point percentage in the NBA is a little over 36. So Covington is a percentage point higher than that. However, it's not like he goes out every night and makes about a little better than 1/3 of his threes. That's not who the guy is. He can literally win a game for you by himself because he can get unconscious making them. But by the same token, inconsistent is the one that I'm not Robert Covington. I would like a guy on my team who could shoot 37 for 3. He'll help my team win games. But you know what you're talking about. Don't waste your time, your energy, or your words criticizing Covington when he goes 1 for 9. That's who he is.
Yeah.
He's going to have another night where he's going to go 7 for 9, literally. But that's how it balances out. Redick is a way more consistent three-point shooter than Robert Covington is. That's who the players are.
All right, Coach. The other night we saw Dwyane Wade, 36 years old, go to the Wade back machine. Can he do that again? Or, I mean, did you get the one night out of him that you're going to get?
Well, despite the tweet from his wife, I'm sorry, she's a nice lady, but I'm not going to put too much credence in the fact that we don't know what we're watching. No, come on. For 2 years, I watched Dwyane Wade in Chicago. I watched him in Cleveland. Is he the old Dwyane Wade? Who could he be? He's 36 years old. I actually, before the first game, I said, my guess would be that Dwyane Wade will jump out of the box and probably win one game for Miami. I thought you saw him do that the other night. Now, only 2 games into this series. Might he do it another time? Yeah, he might. But is he capable of doing that like night in and night out over a 7-game series, like real stars do, like LeBron last night needing a big win, bangs you for 44 or whatever it was? No, Wade can't do that anymore. But that's what the stars are supposed to do. Dwyane Wade can do it. Spoelstra said after the game, a compact, that's the word he used. He says he's still capable of doing a lot of damage in a compact 25 minutes.
He's averaging in the 4 games with the Heat against the Sixers 20.6. So he likes seeing those filler, that script written across the front of the uniform, apparently, as he's played pretty well against the Sixers in the 4 games. He made the game winner. Overall, as we kind of, look at this game tonight, is there something that worried you that you saw in game 2 that the Heat did that does concern you with the Sixers personnel that maybe they might have some problems with tonight?
No, the Sixers have to do 2 things. They got to be ready to play against the pressure, respond to the pressure, and they're very capable of doing that. It's not like it's the first time all year that they saw pressure, and you might see a little more faults in terms of a personnel adjustment to play against that kind of defense. I think that certainly has the chance of being successful. And the second thing is don't let Wade do what he did. In other words, if you have to commit more of your defense to Wade so he's not going to get the shooting opportunities he got the other night, then do that. Because not only is he like a danger and a huge factor in terms of the numbers, meaning points and assists that he puts up, he's like the heart and soul of their team. Sometimes I think we read too much into just situations in general. Having said that, I thought literally I could see like the confidence and morale of the Heat rise when Dwyane Wade made the second or third straight shot when he came onto the court. It was like, here we go. Here's our guy. And you can't let him kind of instill that in those other players because, quite honestly, I don't think they're good enough to beat the Sixers, even without Joel Embiid.
He's Coach Jimmy Lynam. You'll see him
He's our guy.
Yeah, he's on NBC Philadelphia tonight, Sixers pre- and post-game. And the Sixers take on the Heat. You'll hear that game with Tom McGinnis on 97.3 ESPN if you're on the radio. And if you're watching the television, you'll see the coach breaking it all down. Coach, always enjoy it. We appreciate it, pal.
Yeah, my pleasure, guys. Good talking.